Well, hey there, everybody. I am Kyle Thompson. I am here with Craig Blanton. You have found Apex News above the noise. This is our premiere broadcast. We want to welcome you all. Thank you all for joining us on your drive home, or if you're already home, sitting with us as we talk about the news of today and things going on locally in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and obviously in the nation as well. Hey, welcome, Craig. Thanks for joining me here.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty good as we get going along, and being our first inaugural broadcast, we're liable to make a mistake or two, and we'll
Or
get
one or two,
yeah,
and I'm sure our
we'll get
friends will
better as
point
we
them
go
out.
along. We'll
Yeah.
learn how to use this technology better, and be able to pop up some videos and some other graphics that'll y'all will be able to see with us, and we'll be able to
Absolutely.
discuss together.
Absolutely. Well, we are really excited that you guys have joined us. Something about Apex News and Media that you guys are going to find out is that our goal is to provide facts and facts-based, that we're not leaning left, not leaning right, regardless of what our own opinions might be, but giving you news and information so you can make your decisions and opinions based upon those things that are going on in our world and even locally here. Craig, we've got a few things we want to talk about. Number one is obviously the podcast itself. Why are we doing it, and what do we want to do? If you want to just give a little background about what your thoughts are and where you see this going and why you want to move forward, and I'll jump in as well.
Yeah, because I've been playing around with CBNN, Craig Blanton News Network on Facebook, getting tons and tons of comments and suggestions. And so Kyle and I've been doing Franklin County football broadcasts, doing other things together. So it's naturally evolved into this. And we'll be interviewing all the newsmakers in Frankfort. We've talked to many of them. They're be glad to come on. We've talked to
Excited to come on. Yeah.
what? Yeah,
Excited to come on. Yeah.
we've talked to Congressman Comer. He said he'd be glad to come on. So we'll have all the movers and shakers of Frankfort. We'll also welcome suggestions that you want, that you'd like to see. If you got a problem in your area, or if you just want more information, then we can dig it up through our connections and just the people we know through our careers. That so far nobody said no to anything.
No.
So we'll get the information out that you might struggle to get, but we'll work really hard to get it for you.
I think you will be surprised the things we have going on here. This is not just going to be a podcast, but the podcast is going to be a portion of a larger media scene that we have here. Obviously, in today's day and times, people are struggling for information. It seems like we're siloed in our own opinions and things that we hear on social media and things of that nature, and a lot of people just want facts. And so that's what we're going to try to provide to you guys. We'll discuss some things and we'll talk about what the different sides of the arguments are, sometimes controversial, sometimes not so much. We're just going to try to give you as much information as possible. We will have some big announcements coming up relatively shortly, actually, related to the entire media process and our idea of new media and new news media, and what that means for Frankfort and Franklin County, so that you have a repository to find information all the way from Washington down to the local ball fields. And it's our hope that we can bring back that hometown touch when it comes to news and information. So that's our goal. And I guess the best thing to do, Craig, is just to get right into it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing was I watched a video on Cable 10 where Al Cross was one of the people on the dais.
Yep.
And he said, this is a guy with 40 years in the news media. He said that this is the new media. YouTube broadcast,
Absolutely.
citizen news, this is the new media. Now, I don't know him personally, but we do talk back and forth on Facebook. So we're going to try to get him on, Gil, because he's one of the most famous news writers in all of Kentucky, at least in my lifetime.
Yep.
And so I think since he lives in Frankfort, we probably would be able to get him on, and it'd be interesting to hear his insights on this new media.
I think you're going to be surprised the connections that we have and the people that we will have on here. And it's our goal to bring them closer to you guys, so they're not just a talking head on TV or very rarely you see them in public. We want them to be able to get their information across as well, and that's our goal. So
Yep.
If you get a chance, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast and to Apex News as well. and we will go from here. Looks like Wayne Fielder's already come in, so hey,
He's
look,
talking about Hal Rogers
he
in
is
District
already
5.
talking about Hal Rogers. All right, well,
Yeah.
here we go. Wayne, thanks for joining us. I'm sure you're going to add quite a bit, so I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that too.
Do you know Wayne?
Oh, I know Wayne. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a text message from a guy out in Washington State.
Yep.
So we're already getting across the country and we ain't even started yet.
Yep. So make sure you like and subscribe and join us. This is going to be a daily project for us. We're looking forward to it. It's a labor of love for each of us. I think we will all have some fun with that. We're going to talk about some local local news to start off with, things that a lot of folks have asked us about, and I think it's time to do that right now. We're going to lead right into it. The first story for us, Craig, is going to be Taylor Avenue. What is going on with Taylor Avenue? So for a lot of you who don't know, the whole issue with Taylor Avenue goes back to a limestone quarry carved into the hillside along Taylor Avenue. Mining continued for about 20 years, starting in the 1940s up to the 1960s. There were some long-term instabilities that were found in the 1970s all the way to the 2010s. There was a major flood in 1978 that likely weakened the structure as well. In 1999 and 2000, there was an early collapse, I guess you could say. In 99, rock fell from the quarry entrance, creating a large dust cloud, scared local residents, obviously. And in 2000, early 2000, a bigger collapse forced Taylor Avenue to close for a while officials inspected the stability. But the major modern event that a lot of people can remember was big news here is from October 13th, 2023. It's the one that most people will remember. A massive slab of rock broke loose from the quarry. It happened around 7:15 a.m. The residents that lived on top of the hill all gave some great stories, Craig. You probably heard some of them about, here we go. It's finally going.
Mark Stamper reached out at around 10 minutes to 8 a.m. and sent me two pictures. One was the original. There was like a tree level with, he could see out his backyard.
Yep.
Then the second picture was just the very tip top of the tree. It had fell that much. And of course, woke him up and everything. And then I got a couple other phone calls from people that live on Taylor Avenue. And it was an amazing thing. Now that is from the CBN Air Force. Ken Jordan,
right.
A friend of mine, lives in my neighborhood.
It's a larger Air Force than Iran's Air Force right now, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But he took these pictures a couple of days ago as he was flying to Lake Cumberland, believe it or not, to have lunch. And he sent those to me while he was while he took off from our airport. So I thought they were really cool, and gives a great view that you can't get a drone up that high. You've known I've flown a million drone videos over there, and can't get up that high. But with Ken on his plane, he sends me these pictures every now and then of different things, the landfill and different things. So it's pretty cool how it's going. And so I've been following along with it for quite a while, talking with Chuck Knowles and Ray Kenny and others. In the first public meeting they had, somebody asked them when this could fall, the second one, the one in the middle.
Right.
And they said it could fall tomorrow or it could fall 30 years from now. So they don't have a clue. Nobody does, of course, when it's going to fall. Talked with David Harrod, see if he knew of any kind of mapping of the caves, because I personally have heard they go all the way back to Shelby County, or they go back maybe a third of a mile. Nobody knows.
Well, I will tell you that one of the issues and one of the reasons, the main causes of this problem, is that these are old, poorly engineered underground quarry tunnels that were utilized, early on in the 1940s and probably even earlier. That's just the earliest that we have. The weak limestone layers. We're known for our limestone base here, and the cliff face exposure that gets that all that wind and rain and everything. There has been water intrusion over the decades, including obviously massive flooding in 1978, and even last year there was some major flooding, and gravity's just doing what gravity does, and most people will tell you that they've heard they've heard rocks falling for decades now. So this is not a new situation. It's something that's going to continue to happen. And the hill was hollowed out decades ago. So you're
Right.
talking 80
40s.
years. Yeah, 80 years ago. It was never properly stabilized. Everyone knows it was never properly stabilized. Experts have warned about it for years, and now basically it's a slow motion collapse situation. So when you hear rock slide on Taylor Avenue, it's not some random freak event. It's just a result of 8 decades of structural weakness finally showing itself here. So I think that's something that folks now are wondering, will Taylor Avenue ever really open again? And I think that's a real question. You've talked to some local folks, including Chuck Knowles and others. Tell me what their thoughts are at this point, Craig.
Well, the city passed a, I don't know, what do you call it when you pass a spending thing? To hire a company to come in and
So a budget amendment to
budget
allow.
amendment, okay,
Yeah.
around 268 grand
Yeah.
over 3 years. And the company just recently flew a mapping drone over it. I got another phone call on that, so I went down there. But because I'm hobbled up on crutches, I didn't get out and talk to the guys. But they were flying a mapping drone, I guess, to get their initial measurements and stuff.
Right.
They're going to be watching it for 3 years. Now, for Taylor Avenue to be able to open, the KYTC, let me back up, KYTC doesn't want anything to do with this. They don't want to open it. They're not helping funding the mapping or the monitoring of the cliff face or those pieces that have broke off. So it's all on the city. But KYTC, since it's a state road, won't open it until they get 12 months worth of data. And there's no guarantee that they'll open it even then. But they want some data, so the city's doing this at their expense. And so we're still 12 months away, minimum, of finding out if Taylor Avenue will open. I know a lot of people want it open, but there's, like you mentioned, the rocks falling.
Yeah.
When we had that real bitter cold snap, I was down there just taking pictures and comparing them and stuff like many others. And you could hear the rocks on the inside of the caverns hitting the ice where the water had froze. You could hear the rocks falling from the inside, smacking on top of the ice. And then so I got my camera out and flew my drone down there. And you can see inside a little bit. You can see the rocks piling up on the ice.
Yep. I think a lot of
snap.
Yeah, a lot of people who aren't from Frankfort, and thanks, Wayne, for pointing this out. KYTC is the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Taylor Avenue is a 2-lane road, but it was a majorly used road for many years. And in fact, Kentucky's very lucky that the second connector, if you will, was created. Otherwise, we'd be in a world of hurt, to be honest with you, because Taylor Avenue was used so much. Taylor Avenue is the road just below the rocks here for those folks who are wondering what we're talking about. And of course, the major concern, Craig, and I think a lot of people have pointed this out, is if that slab were to fall and to do what gravity does, and it were to fall forward, it would destroy that portion of Taylor Avenue. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that there are power lines and there is a gas line that runs directly on the opposite side of Taylor Avenue, which is obviously a concern. I don't know any other way to put it. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Right. And, if you look at it, and I don't know how to measurement, we'd have to call an engineer or something. If that toppled straight over, which it would probably slide down, because it's got a bunch of broken rocks at the bottom of it, small ones, and it toppled over, of course, it would take out the road. If it broke the road, breached the road, all the water inside the caves would hit the river.
Right.
Now, what kind of damage would that do with all that water dumping in the river? I don't know. Would we have a little mini tidal wave if the top part of that bridge, where the green part is, where the bridges are, the trees are, would that cause any damage down river? But it's going to, people have, I'm just logic. People have asked, why don't they take it down? Well, there's homes on top of them.
There are, and that's a structural issue as well. The other thing
there's the other thing.
Yeah,
30-inch sewer line.
Yeah, you got a sewer line. You have
a 30-inch sewer line.
Yeah, you have the sewer line. You have power lines there. You have a gas line, and also there are major network lines that go through there. And no one wants to talk about the what ifs, but the reality is, if that goes down, we could have some major problems. Not just the instant issues of, heaven forbid, there's a catastrophic fire or anything like that, but your network and power could be out for a significant amount of time in this town.
Yeah, right. And picture when the Potomac River recently had 250 million gallons of sewage go into the river, and they said that's the largest biological disaster in the history of America.
Yep.
The sewer line that's between the edge of the cliff and the houses is like I said, 30 inches in circle, but it takes all of West Frankfort sewage and takes it down to Benson Avenue to the sewer plant. So you're looking. You talk about a disaster. Picture that in your brain, that pipe breaking and just the flow into the river just be disastrous.
I think one of the other issues is there's a paralysis of information and action. There are a lot of moving parts, and no one really knows what to do with a situation like this. We're not talking about a small rock falling here. This is a massive slab that could cause some problems. Moving on, we're talking about roads in Frankfort, and let's talk about the most traveled road into downtown for state employees, and that's the Holmes Street corridor. It's a very busy road, another 2-lane road leading in from 127 north into downtown Frankfort. It is one of the oldest roads in downtown, probably not the most well-maintained road. A lot of you travel it on a regular basis, and it is getting a facelift. Craig, talk to me a little bit about what you know about the plans for Holmes Street, the Holmes Street corridor, and what we can expect over the next few years regarding that.
Well, the first, I learned today, just a little while ago, that the first phase of the Holmes Street project is now funded. So they're going to probably break ground the first of next year, and that will be the middle of Holmes Street, which, Kyle, your business will be one of those.
It will.
Yeah, that's phase one, running down that part of the road. And then phase two will be the far end on Thornhill Bypass and the High Street in front of the transportation building, High Street up to West Main. That'll be phase two. Each project will take about 2 years to complete. So the first one will be done by, say, 2028, and the other one they're hoping to have done by 2029, late 2029, and that will hopefully alleviate a lot of the problems. There's been flooding when I worked off of Holmes Street for the transportation cabinet back in the day. Every time you'd have a big rain, Holmes Street would flood, if people remember that. And so that's been rectified, but now this project is something that's long overdue. They're going to be, I think they're in property acquisition or whatever all the right terminology is, but it is much closer than it's ever been. And if you see that picture Kyle put up, I'm gonna read it. There's a right-of-way meeting, another one, which I think might be the second one, at the Memorial Baptist Church on April 21 from 5 to 7 p.m. They'll be able to, probably all the business owners and homeowners along that road, plus any other interested parties, need to be there. It's at Memorial Baptist Church, which is right across from the state office building, before that little gas station, across from the fire department on Holmes Street. So you'll want to be there to ask those questions, but you'll learn what will be happening up and down Holmes Street.
This is going to be a widening project as well, so that right-of-way issue is really going to come into play, because you're going to have businesses and even homes that will likely be affected. Yeah,
they'll be adding bike lane. It'll be a 2-lane road, bike lanes on both sides, and then sidewalks on both sides. So it is significantly wider than what it is, and so it's going to affect a lot of business. I've talked to a couple business owners that have concerns. I've talked to Kyle about it, and he doesn't, Kyle can tell his business, but it's going to affect some businesses down the road, and that's going to be something for the city and the state to deal with.
I would I would hope that this is now, we're in the tens of millions of dollars. This is not just a small local project. There's large federal grant monies that are coming in here. At one time, the plan involved not only the road, but also the sewer. Some of those sewers down there are approaching 100 years old.
Clay pipe.
Yeah, and the gas lines that are run down there, I know from experience because we had an issue. You're looking at significantly older sewer lines and very very small sewer lines. All of those are planning on being increased in size and also brought up to modern specs and things of that nature. But it's going to affect downtown. It's going to affect traffic down there, which is going to be something that we'll all have to deal with. We'll all probably have to have alternate routes for long periods of time. For those of you wondering, I don't think bike lanes are a major concern down there, but they are going to widen it to at least 3 lanes with a turn lane in the middle for most of that road. And I think this is a great opportunity to essentially handle the beautification issues that they have talked about for a long time on that Holmes Street corridor.
I'm not sure about the turning lanes. I don't remember, so I don't want to commit to that. I've looked at some of the photos that are on the city government website, but I don't remember turning lanes.
Well,
you'll know better than me because you will be affected by it.
Yeah, it will affect it, and yeah, one of the questions that came in, Wayne, thanks for asking. First of all, Wayne, I don't know that I would tell people that I played a lot of poker down there, but if that's what you want to, that's your own prerogative. It will affect the downtown, those homes down there. Their eminent domain could come into play there. I think there are quite a few homes that could be affected. However, at this point, I haven't heard of any specific homes that will be affected in the sense that you may lose some front space and some parking space, but I haven't heard of any homes that need to be taken at this point.
Right. Yeah. Through eminent domain, I've not heard it. I've not even heard it mentioned.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to pay attention to it, and Wayne, beautification equal gentrification. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? It's entirely possible. Our hope is that we always want Frankfurt to be great and be beautiful, but there is a balance. You're balancing on the head of a pin there, as we always say, and I think that's going to be one of those things that the city's going to have to decide what they want to do. All right. While we're talking about progress, Craig, one of the most fun things, at least in our household, is talking about the Paddocks, and I think the Paddocks is going to be exciting. Let me see if I can bring this video up that you had here.
Yeah, this is where we're testing out the technology. We're learning as we go.
Testing it all out here. So I'm gonna bring this up, and so as you can see here.
You want me to narrate this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm getting ready to fly over the front, and you'll have some logos pop up here in a second. I won't give them away, of what they have already signed. There's 5 businesses that have already signed, and so I fly these occasionally for the builders of this project. They'll call up and say, "Hey, can you fly it for us? It's fun, gives me more experience with the drone." Right here, it's getting ready to come up to show what they are. Yeah, the building that's going up now is Chipotle. Then Wawa is going to be next beside it.
I'm going to back that up. I'm going to back that up a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then Panda Express will be in that area where it's at now, and that leaves 2 other lots up to the broken cliff where they've dug that down. There's 2 available lots there, and that's next to the hotel and next to the Speedway. And now let her go again, Kyle.
Yeah, you got it.
This is pretty cool. So you're coming up on the 2 vacant lots that they're going to sell right there, and then I think it pans off to the right. Yeah. Oh, now we're showing the right front of the Paddocks where the off ramp is. and this will be part of the drainage that'll eventually lead down to the river. You can see there's pretty deep, so drainage shouldn't be a big issue as it heads down the river. If you look up to near the top of the screen, you'll see the interstate bridge.
Yep.
And so to your left, it's getting ready to turn to your left. You'll see Target is moving along quite well, and Target is supposed to be open June of this year. And then we'll have BJ's that'll be open up as they move along. It'll be open up towards the end of the year. Well, I thought it turned left. Maybe it doesn't.
Who's the pilot of this thing? Come on, turn it
Well,
on.
I did it to the specs of what Jason wanted. He wants to see the whole area.
When
So
you talk
everybody
about
did-
Jason, we're talking about Jason Taylor, the developer
Right.
here. He and his group have done just an amazing job with
amazing. See the bridge
with
to
his
your right.
entire
Yeah.
project. And so he asked you to come fly over this and see the progress that's going. And as we come around, we're gonna see exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah, there's BJ's, and today all 4 walls are up for BJ's. And then Target. This was done on a Sunday, so why there's no workers there. Target is they're working on the inside of it now.
Target's in the background. BJ's is on the. You want to explain what BJ's is? It's going to be a
wholesale warehouse like Costco and Sam's.
Yep. And
We won't have to drive to Lexington or Louisville anymore to go to one of these places. We'll have one right here in Frankfort. And I've looked up their membership fees, or they're about half of what Costco and Sam's are.
Yeah. Well, and for someone like you that is a business owner here in town, you obviously like the idea that you don't have to drive all the way to Sam's Club in Lexington as well, right? Or Costco.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we go to Costco and, not for the restaurant, not for Da Vinci's, but me and my wife personally go up there and load up. Instead of going to the store every other day, we just go up.
You want them $1.25 hot dogs.
Right. And so it's flying over top of Target now, and you can see the roundabout coming into view. And I believe it's coming close to the end of this one. But you see the roundabout, which I love roundabouts. It's being used right now for AOC. And this is where I fly right over top of it. This area right here is going to be a strip mall of 4 or 5 businesses right there. Maybe this is where it spins around. Yeah, there you go. Now there's some flying right there.
That is some fine flying right there.
Yeah. So this is a large Target. It's really big.
At the time of the announcement, the 110,000 square foot was the largest Target in the state of Kentucky.
That's what I thought. I wasn't 100% sure. So since we deal with facts, I didn't want to bring it out. But yeah.
Well, that was reported. And if it's not true, Jason will buzz me later, and we'll obviously correct.
Yeah.
It, so
yeah, you reached out to him, right?
I did. I
Yeah,
told him
okay.
we were getting ready to go
Well,
live.
this is going to be pretty cool. The 5 that were on the video, that's the official. Those are signed. There are others that are being worked on, but I don't know what they are, and they're not going to share them with us until they get them signed, because you don't want to interfere with anything.
Well, and obviously there's a reason that you do that, because it's not a matter of them trying to keep it from anybody, but there's contracts involved and there are laborers involved. And then, obviously for years we have talked about growth and what is needed in Frankfort. I think this is a great opportunity for Frankfort, but it will have to be a process. And right now, one of the things that I know that Jason and others are working on is housing. You need some affordable housing. I shouldn't say affordable housing. You want market-based.
Those are market rate houses.
Yeah, market rate apartments and houses, things that are going to be a discussion in the future. But I think everyone is excited about the potential that is here. For the folks who are concerned about, well, we already have a Dick's on the east side, and that whole shopping center. That shopping center was struggled because of location. This is a little bit different because of the anchor stores that we have. I believe I can tell you.
Plus, they're not obviously. There's no doubt, because we got so many vacant stores in other shopping centers. The owners, wherever they are not in Kentucky,
That's correct.
they're not actively marketing them. Where Jason, his company, his owners, they built Hamburg, and you
Eh,
can see
Yeah.
how fabulous the Hamburg shopping center is off of, I think it's exit 110.
And
Anytime you
Jason's,
go up,
yeah,
is that what it is? 110,
108.
108. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so hopefully that kind of recruiting that they did there, because there's not any empty spots there. They'll do
Yeah.
the same thing for the Paddocks.
I think the other thing that people have to understand is Jason Taylor, the developer. Jason is from Frankfurt. He wants
Right.
Frankfurt to succeed, and it's personal for him. You have a personal touch. A lot of the shopping centers in not just Frankfurt, Central Kentucky, all of the United States that are sitting empty right now. People say, well, why don't you fill those first? Well, a lot of those shopping centers, as you said, are owned by out-of-state individuals, trusts, things of that nature, and those are investments that they don't want those to grow for
Right.
investors. They need losses, and what
They
better?
don't
put
want to
those-
grow for tax purposes.
It's exactly right. And so people say, well, why don't you put them there? Well, they don't. You'd have to get the owner to want you to put it there, and they don't want to grow those. They need a loss for tax purposes or whatever else it may be. And yes, it's not fair that it's Frankfurt, and yes, some of those places are new, and some of them are very, very old. It's just a different type of scenario, and I think I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be a great thing for Frankfurt.
Yeah, and I know some people because I've talked with them, are working the shopping center, Century Plaza, Eastwood Shopping Center, et cetera. They would be perfect locations for affordable housing, true affordable housing.
It's true.
But they struggle to reach the property owners. They won't get phone calls returned, and so they're really frustrated about it. But that's an option because the city's out of growth potential, I guess. Right? There's not really anywhere to go.
Landlocked.
Landlocked, yeah. So the shopping centers, everybody's talking about affordable housing. I know that the county clerk and some others have bought property, the old Leathers Field, where us old guys played baseball at back in the day.
It's true.
They've bought it, and they're going to put some affordable housing there, which is much needed. And hopefully they'll be able to, let's see, what's called Develop Frankfurt. We'll be able to work with these property owners, and we might be able to get some affordable housing at the shopping centers, which will really bring life back to that part of each side of Frankfurt.
Well, and I think just discussing the facts about it, I think the tie-in with whatever development occurs down 127 is going to be crucial as well. It also opens up job opportunities for not just Frankfurt, but also allows for individuals in Lawrenceburg, Shelby County, Spencer County, all the way over to Versailles and Scott County. This is going to open up a lot of jobs, and I think that's great for a place like Frankfurt that has struggled to add jobs. They did add 220 jobs recently, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. But I think what we have to look at is every opportunity that we have, and these are not, not all minimum wage jobs either. So
right.
One of the questions was about restaurants that are coming in. There are some discussions with some good restaurants, not just fast food, and I think that will help with the bourbon industry and things of that nature.
Yeah, I just don't want Jason to put a pizza restaurant in there.
For your own selfish reasons, right?
Yeah, for my own very selfish reasons. That's right.
Right.
Very selfish. But
All
and a concern is, will these new businesses harm local businesses or the downtown business? Will employees leave those businesses to come work out there because Target pays above average jobs? I'm sure BJ's does. And the restaurants that we think are coming in, but we're not talking about, there's some high quality restaurants, something Frankfurt's really needed or desired, not needed, but desired.
There are, and I think there will be that balancing again, as we talked about, downtown versus, right on the interstate with growth. Will it hurt downtown? Will it hurt the restaurants and the new boutique hotels down there if you build a lot of hotels and things of that nature and restaurants out there? something we're going to have to see. I don't know what will happen, but it certainly will be an interesting next few years out there at the interstate at exit 53. So
Right.
look forward to it. So, well, let's talk about let's go to some state news, something that may affect a lot of folks that are watching one way or the other, regardless of where you land on this. But right now, state lawmakers are weighing changes tied to the federal SNAP program. That's food assistance for those who don't know, and the potential impact could be massive for the state. We're talking about up to 47,000 Kentuckians who may lose benefits or at least have new requirements put on them, depending upon how the state responds to new federal regulations that have been placed on them. Here's what is happening as of right now. Congress already has approved major cuts to the SNAP funding, and now states like Kentucky are being asked to shoulder more of the administrative cost. And as we are the home of state government, that means the state lawmakers have a decision to make: either find money to cover these administrative costs or tighten eligibility. If they tighten eligibility, people could get cut off the program or have new eligibility requirements placed on them. And it's not a small tweak. It's a real, tangible shift that could affect a lot of families, especially in rural communities, working class households across the state. Now, the thing that we see a lot here in Frankfort, and things that what we need to talk about is politically, this is exactly the kind of issue that gets messy on both sides. You've got one side arguing fiscal responsibility, saying that the state can't just absorb federal cuts. This can affect state employees, as those of you who work in those programs, and those of you who don't even work in those programs but are affected tangentially in state government. It could affect you. And the other side is saying if you cut these benefits, you are going to be hitting people who are already barely getting by. And here's the big picture. This is happening right now in the legislature in the 2026 legislative session, which runs through mid-April. So decisions are coming. And the bottom line on this, Craig, and just to get your thoughts, this isn't theoretical. It's one of the biggest policy fights in Kentucky right now, and it could directly impact tens of thousands of people. The two sides are going to try to come up with some plans, but Kentucky is already struggling financially when it comes to our state budget and our state budget practices, and it will be a decision that will affect a lot of families in rural Kentucky. Your thoughts?
I'm not up to speed on a lot of this, but I know that 10 of the 20 poorest counties in the United States are in eastern Kentucky. I know that. Now, Kyle, where the federal government's talking about putting work requirements 20 hours per week, 40 hours per pay period, or 160 hours a month. I mean, not, let's see, 20, 40, 60, 80 hours a month. Is that in the conversation on this bill? On this discussion?
It's not as much in the bill, because that's going to go towards whether individuals receive it or not. What is really causing the angst, I guess you can say, from lawmakers as well as state government agencies, is this discussion about these administrative costs that the federal government, in their efforts to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, which we have seen from both sides, the discussions about this, is where do all those administrative costs go? And the issue is, a lot of those funds come from federal government, but then they get administered by the states. And so the question becomes, who has to bear those administrative costs? I think the fight, if you will, I don't want to say fight, but the arguments on both sides will be, we're already struggling as a state when it comes to finances, especially in eastern and even in some western states, western counties. How are you going to put that burden on a struggling state already? You add that to an issue that I know touches yourself, Craig, when it comes to state retirees.
Yep.
We have a budget crisis. We have all sorts of things that we need to be addressing, and then the federal government drops this on us as one more burden, if you will. Regardless of where you land on the political spectrum, there's only so much money out there, and I think that is the issue when it comes to the administration we have a governor who essentially has this is his second, his penultimate, if you will, legislative session. Next year is his last legislative session, and he has higher goals in mind. Obviously, with
looking that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. He dropped that book right on time, didn't he? I mean,
Yep, he sure did.
It looks that way. And with the struggles of Gavin Newsom and some other folks who AOC and others who were on the Democrat side who are not necessarily the darlings anymore. Andy Beshear has a real shot just like anybody else does at this point. There's no clear-cut favorite. And I think he's going to – this is a hill that he's willing to die on when it comes to these administrative costs.
Well, and I made a post a couple months ago. I predicted Andy Beshear will be the Democrat nominee for these reasons. Josh Shapiro is a huge supporter of Israel, so that pretty much wipes him out. That's why he wasn't vice presidential candidate. J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, the governor of Illinois, he said it himself a couple of days ago that he's a billionaire and he knows that's going to drag him down. Plus his brother's associated with the Epstein files. And so that kind of is leaving Newsom out there, doing the Newsom thing, and he's just going to burn out. Andy Beshear, if he stays in the middle of the road and doesn't, he visited J.D. Vance, so that's the first sign. He visited J.D. Vance's home county. So that was the first sign where I see he's going away from Trump and going to start actually get more into campaign mode, going to talk to the people that he will be competing with in 2028. But I think Andy Beshear has earned the reputation. He's currently the president of the Governors Association or chairman, whatever the terminology is. And Josh Shapiro will be the head of the Democratic Governors Association next year. So that gives both of them a leg up on, traveling the country and using it for whatever it is. But I believe unless the country, unless the Democrat Party goes further left, I believe Andy Beshear is going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party.
I will tell you, Andy Beshear and his current state reminds me a lot of a Southern Democrat governor in 1992 who got the nomination, and he was not the lead candidate. A bunch of folks dropped out, and all of a sudden he shoots to the front. The South Carolina primary, if I remember correctly, was the one that kind of propelled him. Of course, we're talking about Bill Clinton,
right.
and Bill Clinton. There are a lot of conservatives today who voted for Bill Clinton in '92 and '96, and because of his moderate approaches. Although there have been a lot of things that have changed over the years. Bill Clinton was strong on the border. He was strong on the economy, and those.
Well, your topic about the SNAP benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Bill Clinton started the Workfare for Welfare, which is kind of modeled off what that is. And then George Bush 43 came in and killed it. He ended it. Yeah. But it was a huge success for President Clinton. So that was a good thing.
It's amazing how things change when it comes to the parties and where they are. Let's talk a little bit more about. We'll get off the SNAP benefits, but let's talk about Beshear versus the legislature. Another big story. Obviously, it's this time of year. This seems like it's basically becoming a yearly tradition in Frankfort, right? We talk about it since over the last 8 years, if you will. Andy Beshear is fighting with the Republican-controlled legislature, and right now it's heating up again in a big way. Here's the situation as we can see it. Kentucky has a Democratic governor, obviously, in Andy Beshear, but a Republican supermajority in both the House and Senate, and it's not even close. It's not even close, and that means really one thing: the legislature can and often does override a lot of vetoes, and they've already started doing it this session. Just in the past couple of weeks, lawmakers overrode Beshear's veto of House Bill 1, dealing with a new education tax credit program. They also overrode his first veto of the session, a bill involving control over the state's broadcast network, broadband network. Misspoke there. And here's where the fight really is right now. Education is ground zero, Craig, as it always is in Kentucky, it seems. Yep. Education is ground zero. Governor Beshear says these education-related bills pull resources away from public schools, and go against what Kentucky voters have already rejected when it came to public school funding. And Republicans say the exact opposite, obviously, that these programs expand school choice and don't take money away from public education. It's a fundamental ideological split, and neither's backing off. And it doesn't appear, Craig, and maybe you can tell me if you see it any differently, it doesn't seem like there's any middle ground. It's either you are firmly in the Beshear is right, or you are firmly in the conservative Republican supermajority is right, and it's right. There's no in between.
What people are afraid of is it's boiling down to money. What they're afraid of is the rich kids, the better off kids will go to these different schools, or they'll get these scholarships where people donate the money, and it'll hurt the public schools. It'll hurt their standing. It'll hurt their money. It'll hurt teacher pay, which I personally believe teachers ought to be paid the same thing doctors are. Teachers ought to come out of college making $100,000 without question. But that gets into property taxes, and we'll talk about those because I hate property taxes with a passion.
You hate paying taxes on something you bought 30 years ago?
Yeah, bought but don't own.
But don't own. That's right.
But yeah, I firmly believe that teachers ought to come out making doctor money, because you have nothing, zero without a teacher. I mean, you don't have a nothing. And with the way people are disrespecting teachers nowadays, it's ridiculous. But I don't know that it's a teacher thing. It's more a political thing. The teachers unions versus what the Republican House and Senate want. And it's going to be an ongoing, continuing battle, session from session. I don't see any difference.
Well, and just on that point, there are massive numbers of teachers who are leaving the industry. They're quitting teaching.
My daughter's one of them.
And it's one of those situations where they went to school for 4, 6, 7 years, and now they've decided that whether it's parents, whether it's children, whatever it is, whether it's administrations, it's not worth it to them. And I think that's one of the hardest things to see. Well, so
I don't know if it's true. I meant to look it up the other day, but I've heard a teacher's career is the same thing as an NFL offensive lineman, 4.5 years. I don't know if it's true or not, but the one thing we got to do is we have to get teacher pay up. How you do it, who knows? But property taxes aren't working because not everybody's. I don't want to go into it. We'll do it.
We'll go a little deeper on that. Yeah, I think the other thing is this isn't just about policy between Beshear and the legislature. It's about who actually controls state government. Beshear has called some of the bills that have come through the state House and Senate this year unconstitutional. This is quote unconstitutional partisan power grabs. Who is controlling state government? Several of the bills strip authority from the governor's office and shift it to other statewide Republican officials. There's all sorts of reasons, different examples of that. We could talk about the ombudsman's office that used to be in the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and been shifted to the auditor's office, but that's just one example. And meanwhile, lawmakers argue that the legislature should have more control as they're the lawmaking branch. But what really is going on here, Craig, and let's be real, this is political chess. Beshear vetoes bills to draw a line and define his platform.
Yes.
And it's not just his gubernatorial platform any longer. Whether we like to admit it or not, we are going to be pawns in a larger national discussion that will be going on with Governor Beshear over the next year or two. And then the legislature overrides them to actually make policy. And because Republicans have the numbers, they usually win the final outcome. And the bottom line is it's not going away anytime soon. And at least for the next year and a half. It's going to be policy battles with education, regulation, spending. Power battles are going to be who controls the appointments and agencies, and honestly, a preview of probably bigger political ambitions, especially with Governor Beshear getting national attention. But also, let's be quite honest, there are some members of the House and Senate and some members of the National House and Senate who are going to be have been and taking larger roles that we are going to see. One in particular, my neighbor Jamie Comer, who is always mentioned. It seems every 4 years when they talk about a Republican running for that office again. So, your thoughts on where we see this going forward?
Well, I used our technology. I looked up Super Grok to see the average life cycle of school teacher nationally. It's only 10 to 15 years. Many leave within the first 5 years. In Kentucky, turnover rates are around 10.9% in 2023, 20 to 26% in the 23-24 school year. Early career teachers leave at a higher rate, around 15% in year one. So it's a tough job, and I wish our legislature and governor could get along. But it started back when Julian Carroll, Governor Carroll, our Governor Carroll, was the last strong governor in Kentucky, and then the legislature started stripping away. And then when David Williams got in office, him and Governor Carroll bumped heads. And even when Governor Carroll became our state senator, David Williams placed him in the front row, right dead in the middle, because those two guys knew the rules of the Senate more than anybody. So they constantly battled back and forth. But right now, governors, they keep taking more power away. It's the legislature driving everything. And with the huge super majority they got, they don't even have to listen to the governor. They can take his budget when he presents it and just throw it in the first trash can they see.
That's right. I mean, it's as if they're not even listening. And we can we can expect more vetoes over the next month. We can expect more overrides, and expect the tension to keep driving Kentucky politics. I think Kentucky's going to be ground zero when it comes to the next 4 years. And honestly, I think even if Vice President Vance is the nominee and Governor Beshear is the Democrat nominee, Kentucky is going to be absolutely ground zero on the national stage as well.
Kentucky and Ohio,
yeah, in Southern Ohio. So.
And then they're pitching Rubio as the VP. I don't know who would be the VP with Governor Beshear, but
we will have to see. I think there's a lot of
other
things that they take into consideration.
Yeah, Kentucky will be and just we're already kind of the center, because who are the two Republicans that are the biggest biggest thorn in the president's side? Rand Paul, and Thomas Massey.
I will tell you that the primary race in Northern Kentucky will be a bellwether for the remainder of the Trump presidency, plain and simple. And it will be an interesting thing. We've talked a lot about local politics and probably raised the ire of at least a few people. Let's talk about something that
we're not trying to. Just
we're not trying to.
Just presenting the facts.
We're also let's move on to sports, and let's talk about something that raised everyone's ire. Boy, Kentucky basketball. Disappointing ending. Let's move on to sports. Disappointing ending for the season for the Wildcats. Boy, we had some excitement on Friday, and it was perhaps one of the greatest endings to a basketball game in Kentucky basketball history when Otega Oweh hit the game-winning shot against Santa Clara, down 3. He ties the game at 73 with a one-step over half court and nails a banked-in three-pointer.
Yeah.
And I think
he didn't call it either. He post game he said, "I did not call that."
Yeah, he did not. It's one of those things though that too many times we've been on the other end of those. Everyone wants to talk about Christian Laettner and things of that nature, but it was nice to be on the other side of that. At least at this point, there's a lot of questions left. It's got Big Blue Nation. This topic has got Big Blue Nation heated right now, if you will. While the season's officially over, and it didn't end pretty The second half of yesterday's game was a bloodbath. I don't know how else to put it. It was hard to
almost
watch.
as bad as the Seattle game with Georgetown.
It was. That's a great example. 1984 when they played Georgetown in Seattle, they could not hit the broadside of the barn in the second half of that game, and it was very
3
similar.
for 33.
Yeah, 80. They lost in the round of 32. The only consolation is that Florida lost as well. It makes me feel a little bit better. They lost 82-63 to Iowa State, and it wasn't really competitive in the second half. But here's the issue. The season is over, Craig, but everyone wants to talk about this wasn't supposed to happen, and who has to pay the price, because the team had high expectations. We played what they called an exhibition game against Purdue. Purdue must have been playing like the greatest game of possum ever. We looked like
where were they ranked?
leaders.
Where were they ranked when we played them preseason?
They were number 1 and we were number 9 when that game went down. And we looked like we could have beaten anybody that game. And Purdue is still in it and looks pretty good, and we're not in it. And it's hard to talk about, other than reportedly this was a $22 million NIL tie-in to the roster, and the return wasn't worth $22 million. Obviously, college sports have changed over the last 5-10 years, significantly over the last 3 or 4 years. It's not the same sport. We're not dealing with amateurs anymore. We're dealing with 18-year-old millionaires. We have kids.
No more team loyalty.
No team loyalty. You know, I'll tell you, one of the things that gave me great concern last night, I will give druthers to Kentucky Sports Radio and Matt and those guys. Matt Jones discussed that, you know, the initial discussion after the game was, we need to find guys who want to be at Kentucky. Oh, that hurts so bad to hear.
Right. That's not. Yeah.
That's never going to work.
Nope.
It's never going to work. And the problem with that is that Kentucky, no school. People aren't going to Duke because it's Duke. People aren't going to North Carolina because it's North Carolina. And people are not going to go to the University of Kentucky because it's the University of Kentucky. They want to get paid. They want to.
It's all about the money now. All the bands, bank bags, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, Gonzaga's out. They usually play pretty well. North Carolina's out. Kentucky's out. And then you got Iowa, the state of Iowa, the Corn Belt. They've still got 3 teams in.
Yeah. Well,
and, you know, Iowa won last night. My pick to win it all, which is, I got smoked on social media, was Arkansas because of their guard play.
Well, if Arkansas's road to the Final Four gets any easier, I mean, it seems like everybody they what do they play, a 13 seed and a 12 seed or something, or 11 seed?
They got a tough game next one.
They have a tough one coming up. You know, discussing Kentucky, national voices are already saying Coach Pope may have 1 year to prove he's the guy moving forward. When you stack it up, we have early tournament exit, no confirmed recruits yet for next season. Not
zero.
No,
we don't have a signed recruit. Right.
There's zero recruits coming in, and we have big money invested with limited results. So
we lose out on everyone. We're not even the top 5 of some of them.
Yeah,
which is just unheard of for Kentucky.
Now, to be fair, his first year overachieved a bit. They weren't supposed to do what they did, and they did great. But this year, expectations.
They had injuries. Remember.
Yeah. Let's give him a healthy team, and maybe things change. But
right, what would happen if we'd had a healthy team? Now, he made a mistake, and I think he admitted it the other night. Didn't have 2 point guards.
I think we've been saying that since the very beginning, right?
And Lowe so far has committed to coming back next year. So
I think the issue. I think Moreno. There's lots of buzz today that Moreno made a comment after the game that it really hurts that was how he went out his last game wearing that uniform. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are reading into that. The kid's going to get a bag wherever he goes. You know, you can't teach height. Kid probably needs to be in the gym a little bit more, but you can't teach height, and you got to. I think the number one guy, it's great if you lock down, Lowe and you bring back, some other guys like Yelovich and that, but you got to lock in Chandler. I mean, you got to lock in Chandler, Captain Clutch. You got to get him back, and I hope he will consider it.
Yeah, so far he's in too. Chandler's my favorite player. But what would Pope have done? Because he's big on analytics.
Yep.
What would he have done if he'd have had JQ and Lowe all year long with no injuries? When you're going from game to game, wondering if a player's going to play, Lowe, he just darn near that last game, he just raised his arm about 20 seconds in.
Yeah.
And his shoulder dislocated.
Yeah.
And he was done from the year after that. I think most everybody speculated in late December that JQ was shut down by either his dad or his agents. But we've got a problem, and it's the fans. JQ's dad pointed out how the fans have attacked his son. You and I have both seen it. And just recently, Moreno, some fan did something just horrible and got smoked, saying about Moreno in the second half.
Yep.
He commented on it, so he saw it.
Yep.
We've got to lay off these darn players.
Well,
they're 18 years old.
I will. I'm going to give you both sides of the argument. Everybody can, the argument is that these are just children. I have a child who's 19 years old, a freshman, who's a D1 athlete. And if somebody said something to her, I'd be livid about it. Flip side of that argument is these are 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids who are multi-millionaires.
Correct.
And if you're going to take that kind of money, then you need to be able to take the heat. The problem is we went from where kids commit to a school and they're there for 4 years unless something crazy happens and a coach leaves. And the very next day, we went to paying them millions of dollars, and there was no transition for not only just the kids but also the fans. And I think one of the things that fans, and I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of it because I'm like, these are millionaires. They need to play better. But then what happens, and people don't realize this, is if you criticize these kids are even different than NBA players. An NBA player is locked in for a 2 or 3, 4 year contract where it's all business. These kids are on a 1 year contract. And if you dog these kids constantly, if you're all over them, you're terrible, you're sitting out, you're lazy, you're this, they'll go someplace else because somebody's going to pay them. And the problem with the fan base is not that you can criticize whoever you want, but what you don't realize is that by criticizing these individual kids, you are pushing them to other programs.
Right, exactly.
Regardless of how well they play or not. And if you treat one kid terrible, and let's say you have another kid on the team that's actually really good and we don't criticize him as much, they look at that and go, why do I want to come back for a program where you criticize my best friend or a kid that is on the program with me? So there's going to have to be a molding of the fan base as well. I'm a member of some social media group pages, just as you are, Pope's Cats and things like that. Yeah. There are some people on there who have lost their minds. I mean, you guys have lost your minds when it comes to the criticism of some of these kids. Oh, this is the worst team I've ever seen. I'll tell you about some Billy Clyde Gillespie, teams. Those were some terrible teams.
Right.
These are not terrible teams. These are teams that need better coaching, and I think we're probably in that give him 1 year opportunity right here. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, and Barnhart's retiring.
Yep.
Do you know what year he's retiring? Is it 26 or 27?
It's in August of this year, I believe.
And I don't know that a lot of people know this, but Mitch Barnhart lives in Franklin County.
He does.
Out on 421.
Right behind Spring Hill.
Yeah, he's a regular customer of ours. But if he goes, generally when you get a new athletic director, you have a lot of coach turnover because they want to bring their guy in, their system, somebody they can work with, not somebody's going to try to keep running the things they want to without athletic department support. And, on the team loyalty thing, what was the tall player that went with Calipari to Arkansas? He's now playing in Illinois.
Big Z.
Yeah, and his brother plays at Illinois. But So that proves, I mean, if you're not going to play for a coach as great as John Calipari, whether we still like him or not, I still like him.
I do too. I
Uh,
like the guy.
yeah. It's the money. I don't think it's playing time that much because everybody wants to win whether you're at work or sports. But the game has completely changed. These kids are told from the time they're 8 years old they're the best player in America. And there was a ESPN deal. No, it was Charles Barkley. I posted it on my page where
You
Charles
did.
Barkley
Yep.
loves Michigan State coach and the way he talks to his players. And then we saw in the women's game where a coach got nose to nose with a player, female player, women's basketball, and that player was interviewed today, and she said she loved it. She said, I've learned so much from her. I don't remember what school it is, but it was all over ESPN,
Well,
and people were
I'll-
commenting that she was abused and all that. And the player come out and said, no, that's how I learned.
I will tell you one of the greatest videos I've seen in the last year, and it happened last season, was Rick Pitino in the locker room, just giving it to his team.
F-bombs everywhere.
I mean, but it's like life is not easy. You know, life is going to be a all adversity. You've got to suck it up and try harder. And I think the problem is that we grew up with coaches that would talk to us like that. This generation is not necessarily always ready for that. And it's good to see coaches who are willing to still do that. I think I'm going to say something real quick. I wasn't going to talk about this, but you mentioned Mitch Barnhart and him leaving, and the fan base has been brutal over the last few weeks, especially after details came out about his upcoming contract as a special advisor to the school. After
well, 890,000 or something.
890,000. I will tell. It hurts in a state like Kentucky where that's a lot of money anywhere, but that is a ton of money for someone in Central Kentucky. But I will tell you that under Mitch Barnhart, we have had the highest graduation rate of Division I athletes. We have had
across the board.
We across the board, not just football and basketball, everything.
Yeah, across the board.
And leading to that, our nonprofit sports, I'm talking not basketball and not football, our nonprofit and Olympic sports, as some schools call it, have competed every year.
Nationally.
Nationally, we are ranked in just about every program
baseball,
there is.
Track,
and
gymnastics.
we were not like that before Mitch Barnhart got here. Every once in a while, we'd have a good gymnastics team or something of that nature. We have won SEC baseball championships. We have made it to the College World Series in baseball and softball. Our women's basketball team, it was a pipe dream when I was at UK. And I worked for the athletic department, for the idea that the women's basketball team would be a perennial every single year in the NCAA tournament. That was a pipe dream. And it happens every single year. It would be
even to get there.
Yeah, to even make it out of the first game in the SEC tournament. What Mitch Barnhart has done for this school, and for, again, I have a daughter who is she doesn't go to the University of Kentucky, but she is a female track athlete. To see what and we have Olympians on the track team at UK.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So what he has done with all of these programs is unmatched. And whether you like to admit that or not, because you're mad about we had a bad couple of years of basketball or a bad couple of years of football, it pales in comparison to the thousands of competitive kids who have graduated from the University of Kentucky and either gone professional in their sport, which many of them have, but also become professionals in some other area because of being a student athlete. Mitch Barnhart is a winner in that book. I'm going to be unapologetic about that.
100%.
Those are the facts. And
he's one of the best. I thought he was going to retire and take over and be the SEC commissioner.
Entirely possible in the future, but he will be missed whether we like it or not. There's been questions about when it comes to our football coaches and Mark Stoops and obviously basketball over the last few years, because that's what we
payout.
Yeah, we live, eat, and breathe our two major sports. But for those of us who watch other sports, he's been solid, and I'm thankful for what he's done. Back to the basketball program, we're heading into the off season, but this season feels way bigger than it should be for a program like Kentucky. Roster decisions, recruiting, portal moves, all of it matters. Because if next season looks anything like this season, there's going to be real pressure in Lexington.
Yeah, the portal's where it's going to be, because all the top 25, top 50 kids are all signed. Might be one of the top 15, 1-5 that haven't signed. Kentucky was in the running for him. I don't know if we still are, but we're going to be portal heavy. We'll be recruiting a lot of juniors and seniors next year, and I guess the NIL money's there. You know, there was that rumor that one kid was going to get $7 to $9 million a year, and the fan base just went ballistic on these various Big Blue fan pages.
Listen, I don't think that's a realistic number, but those kids are going to make.
Right. And Calipari, Pope laughed about it, but you know, you think if a player's making $1 million a year to play 2 hours a day, practice 5 days a week, it takes a Kentuckian averaging $50,000 a year. It takes them 20 years to make what that player's making in 7 months.
Yeah.
In reality, 7 months. So that's why I give a lot of the fans grace, because they understand that, and they're professional athletes now, and so they got a right to complain, to bitch and complain, and but some of them, not some, a lot of them take it way too far, and it hurts the program in the long run, because it's seen across the country, and our national commentators talk about it.
Well, I hope some of those folks will go out and touch grass over the next couple of weeks and get out of the house and just enjoy it. We'll move on to national news before we head out of here. Obviously, one of the biggest things today, there was an incident at LaGuardia, which a lot of folks are talking about. Let me see if I can get the...
You got that photo still?
Got that photo somewhere, if it'll let me.
We're trying technology here. We got a picture of the plane hitting the fire truck, and it's just devastating. If we can get it up, the plane was landing, and this fire truck drove across in front of it from the video that we saw.
Yeah, a major aviation incident unfolded at LaGuardia Airport in New York. An Air Canada regional jet collided with a fire truck on the runway while landing. The crash did kill both the pilot and the co-pilot, injured more than 40 passengers, crew members, and first responders. Here's what we know so far. The plane was arriving from Montreal. A Port Authority fire truck was crossing the runway, responding to a completely other incident. Air traffic control audio reportedly shows last-second attempts to stop the truck before the impact. The collision happened at high speed. It was estimated that the plane was going anywhere from 95 to 107 miles per hour when it struck the fire truck, and it caused severe damage to the front of the aircraft. Airport was completely shut down for hours, causing major travel disruptions. And obviously, as we said, killing the pilot and co-pilot. It's a big deal, actually. It's the first fatal aviation incident at LaGuardia in 40 years. And now the NTSB and FAA are launching a full investigation. What makes this worse, Craig, is the fact that we have some areas. Saturday happened to be the largest TSA call-out in the history of TSA. There were long lines for hours and hours at airports across the country. If you are traveling anytime soon and you are not a regular pre-check, you need to get there early and take your time, because things are taking a little bit longer than normal. And a
little bit.
Yeah. I think
3 and 4 hours.
Yeah, 3 and 4 hours just to go through screening at regional airports. So take your time getting up there. Obviously, you know, we feel terrible for the loss of life and for the people that were injured. This obviously wasn't turbulence or weather. This was a runway coordination failure. Earlier this year, there were talks about, you know, the air traffic controllers and what the lack of numbers there. I'm sure the FAA and TSB will come out and talk about those. Something to be considering for all of us who travel on a regular basis, but for those of you who travel irregularly, this is something that could affect us as we go into the summer season. Craig, any thoughts on that?
Well, the federal government is going to put the Border Patrol or ICE agents in the airports to try to alleviate some of this. And what they're going to do, people thought, because people think they were going to put the ICE agents at the X-ray machines and the magnetometers and all that stuff. What they're going to do, the ICE agents and Border Patrol or whoever, I think it's ICE agents, they're going to be relieving the TSA staff that are at the airport entrances and scattered throughout the concourse. Is that what you call it, inside the airport? They're going to relieve those guys so those guys can take their expertise and go to the check-in areas, because obviously ICE agents aren't trained in that, but they are trained in security. So they'll be able to provide the inside security while the TSA agents that haven't quit, there's been over 600 quit, or the ones that aren't showing up to work. It'll allow those that are doing security out throughout the airport to go to the screening areas and hopefully move things along a lot quicker than what they are right now. But it's not good, no matter what it is. There's even, I think, a U.S. senator tried to put in a bill, but it was shot down, that senators lose the privilege of bypassing the TSA checkpoints, meaning they can just walk right up and get on the plane. They don't have to wait 2, 3, and 4 hours to get on the plane. But that was shot down. A senator came in and hollered, "I object," and then walked out. He wasn't recognized. John Kennedy was speaking on it. Senator Kennedy was speaking on it. And so he learned now that a senator doesn't have to be called on to object on something. They can just walk in, object, leave, and never be acknowledged or even halfway know who it is. So it's a mess. It's not anything that's going to be solved anytime soon. And right now, that's the only fix that the federal government has, other than just shutting down the airports.
All right, let's end this on a happy note. All right, we're going to end this on a good note. Across the country, animal shelters are reporting a huge spike in pet adoptions. I mean, that's awesome. That's good awesome stuff, right?
Yeah.
And let's see if I got to.
Pets keep your blood pressure down.
They do.
And they're great for senior citizens.
Look at those guys right there. After a couple tough years where shelters were overcrowded and struggling, things are finally starting to swing the other way. More families are adopting instead of buying, and community adoption events are packed, and shelters are actually seeing kennels empty out in some cities. And look, part of this is economic, part of it is awareness, but a big part of it is just people realizing what you just said. These animals are sitting there waiting on second chances. You've got stories popping up everywhere, Craig. Dogs that had been in shelters for over a year, older pets, which usually get overlooked, even bonded pairs getting taken in together. And that's good stuff, and that's a good one to end on for us
and
today.
We've got a great humane society here.
Oh, we've got a great one.
The new building, the new out there behind, I guess, Frankfurt Plant Board and down from Social Security office, which we're also blessed to have in Frankfurt with Social Security office. But those people take great care of our animals, and a lot of them are volunteers. And they do the spay and neuter programs, the flea bath programs, and they volunteer their time. So they're we're lucky to have such a nice facility in Franklin County.
And in a news cycle that's usually chaos, politics, and bad headlines, this is one of those reminders that people still show up for something simple and good.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we'll leave it today. That's a good one to leave it on. With a little bit of chaos, a little bit of politics, and at least one story that actually makes you feel good about things. We're going to catch you next time. If you want something a little more Kentucky flavored, join us on a regular basis. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe to Apex News Media. There's going to be a lot of great things coming up, as we talked about, and we'll share that as the days go on. But we are very thankful and blessed that you guys join us. Make sure you like all of our socials. And for Craig Blanton, I am Kyle Thompson, and we will see you guys on the flip side. Thanks for joining us, everybody.